Hello, it's Sarah Jane here from Cards and a Cuppa. I blogged this card last week and a couple of people asked me to do a video tutorial on how to make these Shabby Chic style flowers using Stampin' Up Spiral Flower Die. So here we are. Now I've got a couple of top tips for you before we start. This is a Bigz Die, and when I get a Bigz Die I take my Stampin' Up chalk marker and just go around the outside edges of the cutting blade, so that when I place my card over the top, if it slips I can see, so I don't end up cutting a few of the scallops off because my card slipped. Okay, that's top tip one. And also I measure the outer cutting points of the die so that I know what size piece of card I need, so that I've got as little waste as possible. I also write it on the back using a Sharpie, so that if I put the die away for a couple of weeks and don't play with it, then I don't have to remeasure. Okay, specifically for this die, it's very important to get the least amount of waste to cut the card first, because you cut it's 10.5 by 9.5 the measurement that you need. So you cut down the centre of your A4 card at 10.5, which is what I tend to do anyway, and then you cut the 9.5 pieces this way. You get 6 out of a sheet of A4. If you do it the other way, if you don't cut the 9.5 centimetre pieces, this is the 9.5 centimetre measurement, and this is the way you would run it through your machine. And if you don't cut the 9.5 centimetre pieces, you'll only get 2 out of each side of your A4, so you get quite a lot of waste, which nobody wants that really. Okay, so die cutting, bottom plate, die, and then I've got 3 pieces of card which this die will do easily, and it's nice and easy to line up because I can see where the cutting blades are. Top plate, roll it through. And that's that. You can see we haven't missed any of the scallops. Okay, that's done. Get rid of the excess. Now I'm using cherry cobbler and vanilla. The original card was raspberry ripple, but that's now retired, so we're going with this one. So for the double layer one, we used one of each colour, and this is rubbing alcohol mixed with shimmer paint. Unfortunately Stampin' Up don't sell shimmer paint anymore. You can just use plain rubbing alcohol. Obviously you just won't get that shimmer. I don't know if you can see that. You can also use water, but if you do use water, be careful, because you don't want to end up with a soggy mess that you can't work with for a long time. That's the good thing about alcohol, is that it dries nice and quickly. So spritz both sides well of your 2 spirals, and then be brave and scrunch it up. A lot of my ladies struggle with this when I tell them to do this in class, but you just got to go for it. Remember, it's card, it's quite tough. So right, once you've done that, you need to unroll the die cut. When you're doing this, if you've got a few bits that are a bit stiff still that haven't been scrunched, make sure you break down the fibres and scrunch the flat bits as you're going round. Remember, it is damp though, so it will tear quite easily, so you've got to be a bit careful as you're pulling it apart. Okay, that's that one. That's a bit stiff there, so I'll just scrunch that bit and unfold it. Okay, now I'm going to make this flower the same as this card, which means that I want more of the colour showing, so I'll put the coloured layer on top of the vanilla layer, the same. So make sure your die cut shapes are the same way around, and it's simply a case of layering this and starting to roll. Now the easiest ways to do this, which isn't very camera friendly, is to hold the top and the bottom of the flower. At this point you want to be careful that you don't end up folding in between each scallop, so you need to make sure if it does tend to go a bit flat, squash a little bit. But it's easiest to hold the top and the bottom and roll. Remember, because it's damp, it won't pop open as much either, so you need to roll it as tight as you need it. So check it every so often. See, that's a bit tight. So now I'm just gonna loosen that a little bit, because I want a fairly big flower for this, rather than a tight rose bud effect. So I mean, you know, if you end up it's a bit tight, just unroll it a little bit and do it again. That's the beauty of it. It's not glued, it's not stuck down yet, so you can always manipulate it to how you want it to look. Keep rolling. Oh, try not to drop it. Try and manipulate this round so that it's the same. Now when you get to the end, this last circle is going to be your base. So lay that there. Now if it's a little bit tight, you can try and shake it about a bit, make sure it loosens up. Again, like I say, because it's damp, it won't move a lot. Now pinch the flower and lift the coloured layer up so that you're at the bottom. Now when you want to glue this, you can use Tombow for this, but you're looking at putting something heavy on it until it's set. So my preference is just to use a glue gun, just for it's just quick to adhere. So put some glue on your bottom layer and add your coloured. And remember, keep hold of the flower because that's not stuck yet. Now keep pinching and add some more glue to where the flower sits. So that's going to sit like that, and then push in the centre because that's lower. It will be lower, so you need to make sure that you get that stuck on the glue properly. And then get rid of any bits of glue and then press down a bit. And if you press down a bit too much, just push it back up again. Just manipulate it until you have a look that you want. Really? Now that's a bit big there, so I'd be inclined just to trim that off in the shape that you want it, so you haven't got a big overhang. There you go. So that's your double layer Shabby Chic flower. We're going to make the rosebud style one now, which is just a single layer made in the same style. So take your single piece of your single die cut piece, spritz it. You need it quite damp. Don't be afraid to get it where it's alcohol, it will dry out quickly. Scrunch it up the same as before. Careful not to tear. If you go around from all different angles, then you're less likely to find unscrunched pieces when you unfold it. That one's quite good. Okay. Unroll the whole thing, because you don't want to be trying to unravel it as you're rolling your flower. You need to do that first. Now you're going to roll this and you're going to make it quite tight, this one. But do remember, it won't pop out because this one's quite wet. It won't unravel like if you just did the die cut on its own. And just keep rolling it the same. See, then you've got a rosebud there. Okay. Maybe a little bit looser now as you get further out. Got a bit of wiggle room there. Now, as you get to the end of this one, because you're aiming for a rosebud, this would be normally the bit at the bottom. Because you've got a tight bud, I would say it's probably best to use that piece as your bud, and then we'll get rid of that bit in a minute. So just the same as before, pinch your flower lightly, add glue to where your flower sits. Check where your flower sits before you add your glue. That's the best thing. Press in at the centre as before. Doesn't take long to go off. And then press out a little bit. Squash your flower down. Fluff it back up. And then see where you've got all this glue that you can see? Just trim that away. As well as that last petal. And they have a rosebud and a flower, Shabby Chic style, using Stampin' Up's Spiral Flower Die. I hope you've enjoyed today's tutorial, and if I can help you get hold of any of the stuff, please do visit my blog. Thank you.